Good evening, everybody. My name is Han, or Coach Han, for your Canum Health channel, and today counts as day 4 of 21 days of content. And today I want to talk about CO2 tolerance and the importance of, you guessed it, nasal breathing. If you guys aren't familiar, our body experiences something really cool, or we're able to do something really cool when we nasal breathe and we increase our CO2 levels in our bloodstream. That is the so-called Bohr effect, spelled B-O-H-R, which states or explains that the higher the acidity levels of our blood and the higher amount of CO2, and those two correlate, higher CO2 means more acidic blood, actually increases the ability of hemoglobin to release oxygen to our tissues. So doing your zone 2 and maybe even zone 3 training and doing nasal breathing, and also when you're doing like your weightlifting or maybe your jiu-jitsu match or maybe even kickboxing, depending on the intensity, nasal breathing all that time will slowly start to increase your ability to transport and oxygenate your tissues, meaning less lactic acid, meaning more performance or longer performance eventually. It'll be very hard in the beginning, but it'll get easier over time. I've been nasal breathing during my cardio and mainly my runs, and also like my mountain bike trips for the good part of a year now, and I have noticed a huge difference when it comes to sports performance. If for some reason, so if I'm cycling, for example, and I need to do an incline and I'm halfway there, I was like, oh, I can't nasal breathe anymore. Open up my mouth, start mouth breathing. That just like opens up a whole new level of performance. And usually that also means I'm able to blast past a lot of people and actually clear that lactate, especially in my legs when I'm cycling, a lot faster. So, and it also has some really cool effects when it comes to fat loss. So if you're able to nasal breathe for like 80, 90, maybe even like 95, 98% of your day, except for when you're talking, of course, or doing very high intensive other stuff, wink wink, you actually increase your ability or your diaphragm strength, which means that you also start ventilating those lower lung fields, which means greater oxygenation capacity and also the ability to filter out or exchange more CO2 with the air around you. And if we look at fat loss, how does fat actually move away from our body? I mean, we don't pee it out, we actually breathe it out. So our fat cells, once they get released, they get metabolized, ATP gets produced, that ATP gets used, and that whole process, what does that create? You guessed it, CO2. And by increasing your CO2 tolerance, you're able to slow your breathing rate at rest, increase your vagal tone, increase your HRV, which in turn allows your body to more easily get into that state of rest and digest. Maybe do that, shout out to Alex, parasympathetic beta oxidation, and do your PBO walks, which is that exact acronym, in which you have a low heart rate, you do slow nasal breathing, you're able to liberate and oxidize that fat, those fat stores, and more efficiently lose fat. So to recap, nasal breathing will increase your CO2 tolerance. Higher levels of CO2 and a higher acidity level in your blood as a consequence will allow your hemoglobin to release its oxygen or its bound oxygen more readily to your tissues, meaning you increase your ability to transport oxygen. And by being able to tolerate higher levels of CO2, you're actually able to slow your breathing rate down, use that diaphragmatic breathing, increase your vagal tone, which in turn increases your vagal tone, which increases your HRV, slows down your heart rate, and allows you to more easily get into that state where you're able to oxidize fat and use it for energy. The cool thing is, If you're used to nasal breathing and you need that extra bit of ventilation to start going, and especially for my MMA fighters, jiu-jitsu athletes or fighters and stuff, this is so important. If you can nasal breathe for like 80-90% of a match and your opponent is breathing hard through his or her mouth, ooh, they're in trouble. Once you open up that mouth and you add that little bit of extra kick, maybe that small like turbo boost, you'll smoke them. No problem. I'll leave you at that. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening. I've got some screaming kids I need to take care of, apparently. So I will see you tomorrow for day 5. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and see you tomorrow. Bye.